You are listening to the Real Estate Growth Hackers Show.
All right, welcome to Real Estate Growth Hackers Live. Again, I am Zach Hammer. Today, I've got John Pickell with us. He is out of Bloomfield Hills area of Michigan. He's got 17 years of experience in mortgage and real estate, 10 years as a realtor. He talks about how to build systems that help people build a real business. And one of the things that he specializes in that I think you guys are really going to enjoy, he talks about private lending and essentially how you can put together investment funding in order to purchase homes for people that aren't in the traditional sort of vein with their real estate goals, where maybe they need to get it listed fast, where maybe you need to be able to flip it. Essentially, putting together creative ways of dealing with the real estate transaction to get you more deals, get more listings, build up an inventory, and have more tools in your tool belt to do so. So we're going to dive into that in just a second. Real quick, before we get into this interview, I want to talk to you guys about something we're up to called Local Celebrity Show. If you go to localcelebrityshow.com, you can see what we're up to. We're helping real estate agents put together a form of content where you can get in front of your market and really appeal to the market whether or not they're in the market for a transaction right now. You do that by talking about what's great about your community, by talking about the cool local businesses, the restaurants, the places that are doing events, that kind of thing. Featuring your community, getting that in front of your community, and then putting together a weekly show about that. If you want help doing that, if you like that idea, if you like that concept, check us out at localcelebrityshow.com, where you can get more information about that, possibly hop on a call and see if what we're doing is a good fit for you. But right now, we're talking to John. John, let's go ahead and dive into this. Welcome onto the show.
Thanks for having me, Zach, man. I love your shirt. Just sell it.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Appreciate it.
A buddy of mine, you may be familiar with him on Instagram. The Broke Agent has some cool shirts and merch that he puts out, as well as some great real estate humor. So yeah, it's a fun shirt.
Good stuff, man. Thanks again for having me. Let's rock it out.
Yeah, let's do it. So first off, one of the things that I like to find out about is kind of a quick idea of where you started in the real estate world. Tell me a bit about like your history, how you got into real estate. Most little kids don't grow up dreaming of being a realtor. So what's your story for getting into the real estate?
Well, it all started about 2002. Actually, I was in the mortgage business. And it was great for about 5 to 6 years until the market crashed. And I ended up traveling and moving to Virginia Beach for a couple of years. The market stayed stronger there because they have a strong military base and a lot of people buy and sell. And then it started to die down a little bit there in late 2009. That's when I came back and got my realtor license. Initially, my plan was to camp out at a big realtor office and have them feed me mortgages, work from 10 to 4, Monday through Friday, make a good $10,000 a month, support my family, and live the American dream. Unfortunately, it didn't work out like that. Other agents, realtors, they don't like dealing with mortgage guys. So that was a conflict of interest. I was thrown to the wolves, had to deal with some buyers, had to deal with some listings, and I also was doing loans at the time for the first 4 or 5 years in real estate. Until I was a little bit overwhelmed with real estate and kind of just said, let me push that aside and focus on this. So that was the core of the beginning overall, so it was about 2009, end of 2009. It's been about a decade as an actual realtor. And, it's a battle for sure. It's not something easy at all. You definitely have to understand it's an expense. You don't get paid. You spend your gas money. You do your car maintenance until you start closing deals. So it's a constant battle. But after about 3 years in the business, I learned from someone who was kind of way up in the business on how to build a listing portfolio and how to have that to where you're not just running around with with buyers day and night and living on your next deal, where you have enough pendings flowing to where, you could actually be on vacation and, deals are still going pending and closing and doing different things. So eventually you learn to work harder. Work smarter, not harder and stuff.
Right,
but you still end up having to work hard though. And that's another thing I've learned the hard way. It's like, the harder I work, the better it is, no matter how smart I'm working. It's just
right. Yeah, but I was just going to say, but taking those listings and whatnot, it ends up being less of that roller coaster, right? It's more of a you put in the work and kind of know what to expect fairly consistently.
Yeah, as long as you're pretty aggressive with the pricing and not overly aggressive, but just being smart with your commission, protecting your money, protecting the seller's money as if it's your own, and that's one of the things I let them know when they ask for a discount on commission and stuff. So, it's a great comeback. Protect your money as if it's my own. So if somebody says, "Hey, would just give it to me for 4%," if I'm going to give away the farm right away, I mean, I'm going to give away your farm as well. So,
right.
Real estate is more than sales. It's actually, it's having someone that you are fiduciary. You have fiduciary responsibility to do your best for. So
right.
It's a pretty deep relationship. It goes back about 100 years if you really look at the history on where realtors started and what type of liabilities and legalities we have to live by. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned this a little bit. So my next question is generally what obstacles did you face kind of along the way of getting started? And you talked about that a bit of kind of the struggle of being in mortgage and dealing with real estate agents. So you ultimately get into it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's ongoing. It's just different levels of struggling till this day, and I'm still working to get over humps. But I'm thankful to where I got it. And there's a long way to go. But if you want to talk back at the beginning in the first 3 years, it's working with buyers, running around trying to show them houses. At first, you're going to deal with people in your family and your friends, your sphere of influence. You're going to get a few listings here and there, but you're not going to really have any understanding of how to generate business and actually generate listings. And
right.
That's why about 80 to 90% of realtors fail in the first year, I think, and then they're out of the business. I mean, I just met a guy at Sprint or something the other day, and he's like, "Hey, I was a realtor." And I said, what happened? He said, "I'm here at Sprint." So, that was, so I gave him a card and said, yeah, have a nice day. But overall, if you want to talk more about the struggles, the 10 to 4 plan, 5 days a week, ended up being a 7-day-a-week plan.
Right.
Because as a realtor, and you have to work Saturdays and Sundays, those are like Mondays for the normal 9 to 5 businessman or mortgage guy or any of that. So it's a whole lot of work, man. If you learn to love it, I never really had a deep love for it, and it actually from the standpoint of, man, that's a great kitchen, that's a great bathroom, or the way a lot of people are about homes over time, it started sinking in, and you enjoy the aspect that you're going to make some money, but it's not really. So where I find my joy is really being a benefit to the sellers and buyers and letting them know how I can be a benefit. And from the private lending aspect, if you have private lending, you can also offer that to, I know you're going to probably get to that question, but as a realtor, from a realtor standpoint, you can offer that on your listing. So you have another way to sell homes. So it's just an additional way. And there's a lot of people out there with the mortgage guidelines that have the 20% down, that are self-employed and different things, but they can't get a loan because they don't show enough on their taxes at this time for whatever reason.
Yeah, so let's dive into that. So let's talk a bit about kind of your unique strategy, some of what you've found in terms of being able to stay in business, being able to get the business that you need, do the deals that you need to. One of the things that you mentioned to me before we hopped on this was doing the private lending, getting funding together in order to create deals that might not normally happen. So let's dive into that. What is the basic idea?
No, that's huge. If I didn't have that back in 2010, 11, 12, it was so hard to get a loan. There's no way I would have still been in this business today and stuff. And so overall, if you can build a list of land contract buyers, people that might never get a loan. They just want to buy a land contract, and they have that good down payment. And when certain properties come up in the areas that they're looking, you go to that listing agent, or if it's a for sale by owner, you have a cash buyer.
Right.
Your investor is the cash buyer. So the cash buyer, in some cases, you negotiate that deal. You make sure that that land contract person is also willing to put up some money with the investor. A land contract purchase agreement based on him closing on this property. If he closes on it, that's when you're fully committed. You're already committed, but the buyer of the land contract already knows that he has someone in place to sell it to. All those numbers are worked out. And these deals are fast, no appraisals. You can close them in 3 days. You can close them in 1 day if the title's ready. So it's just additional ammunition to the overall real estate business.
Cool. So you mentioned a few steps here. So that you need to build a list of land contract buyers, right? So talk to us a bit about that. How do you find those people?
Well, finding those people is for me, it's kind of like I know a lot of people that in certain communities that don't have enough in tax returns, that don't show enough income, or in cash businesses, and they have the cash to put down, but they just can't get a mortgage because of the guidelines, and so you build up enough of those, and you have the cash investor. You just have to find the house. So when you find the house that the end buyer is going to want, then you just you make it happen. You just got to make the numbers work. And the great thing is you don't have to go through the appraisal and the loan process and all that. You just need to have someone with money that is ready to buy, and you need to have someone else that's ready to buy off that someone who's ready to buy with a good down payment, who's getting seller, or either some cases it could be seller finance, but in these cases it's investor financed. But it's investor purchased and then sold to the next person, usually the same day, immediately after.
I gotcha. So you talked about this a little bit. So finding the people, finding the cash buyers. So you mentioned that the income level that they show, like on taxes, doesn't look high enough. Can you dive into that a bit more? So part of the goal here is that we want to be able to walk people through the strategy so that they can, implement it. For sure.
Well, a lot of realtors really don't have the knowledge of what the mortgage people have. I do. So it's a debt to income ratio, how much your liabilities are, your car payment, your credit cards and all that. And if that's too high compared to what you're actually showing on your tax returns, a lot of cases, if somebody is a real estate investor, they might not show a lot, because if they own 20 houses, they could have took a lot of losses, had a lot of maintenance that year. So even though their gross is 200,000, by the time it's all said and done, they only made 40. They can't really buy the house that they want and stuff. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's about detecting those right debt to income ratios where you can see that they have the money coming in, but it may not show on paper the same way as a traditional salaried kind of employee.
Pretty much, and a good place to maybe even get some of those is if you have a good mortgage lender who has someone that he's not getting approved, say, hey, he can send them to you to get them to buy, and then they can refinance with him in a couple of years as soon as their taxable income's up.
Gotcha. So yeah, so a good way is to turn around and basically say, hey, let's talk about who are the people that are unqualified. Let's talk about how we still get them something now, and then make that work out over the long run. That makes a ton of sense. Okay, cool. And so essentially the game is putting together enough of those people. So the strategy might be that, just like you mentioned, you go out, you reach out to maybe a lender, maybe different lenders, and kind of say, hey, this is something that I can help with. Here's how it would be beneficial to you. We get them refinanced in the years to come, or when they or maybe they want to move into a different property in the long run. Those kinds of ideas, we essentially work together on the deal as a long-term thing, but we get them into something right now. So how do you ultimately? So you mentioned they have the cash to buy the property now, right? That's what you're saying.
So, well, you not only need the cash buyer who's the investor, you also need, in most cases, not all cases, but you need the land contract buyer. the person that's actually getting private financed. Okay, because in those cases, you're able to put a deal together that's closer to retail, more so if it's just the investor who's buying the house,
Right.
he wants it at wholesale to flip.
Right.
So he wants to only put up about 70 to 80% of the value, which is what he's going to be putting up if he finances that end buyer, the land contract buyer. So his money's still safe in that same position, while that person has 20 to 30% down. So it ends up not being a flip, but you have both sides working. And then at the same time, of course, you build up the regular buyers as well, the pre-approved buyers who are conventional FHA, good, solid, loyal ones, as we were talking about. And you have to educate them, because sometimes it could even be your cousin or your family member who you showed houses to for a year, who all of a sudden said, I just bought this for sale by owner. But meanwhile, if they would have told you, you could have called, and that that for sale by owner would have definitely paid that 3%, and you could have worked on that buyer's behalf and potentially negotiated a better deal.
Right. Right. Well, let's stay on this one for now, so that we can flesh out the idea to make sure that people understand. So we're attracting the people who have a hard time getting qualified because of the way that the cash flows in their business work. On paper, they don't look like they could buy the houses that they could buy. So we find those people. How do we find the land contract buyers themselves?
Those are the land contract buyers.
Oh, okay. So you mentioned two different groups of people. I must be misunderstanding.
The land contract buyers are the ones that aren't approved for a regular mortgage.
Okay.
The cash buyers are the investors who have the cash to buy these houses and flip them immediately to these people that aren't approved. And
fair enough. Okay. So I'm tracking with you. So the land contract buyers are essentially, there are buyers that are going to have a hard time with the traditional way. Our cash buyers, our cash investors, are the ones who are going to seize on this opportunity as a way to get make their money do more work for them in the process. How do we find these cash buyers?
Well, I mean, you can contact me, and we'll
okay.
And unless a lot of agents already have private investors, so they're out there. But I can refer some out if people give me a call or send me a message.
Okay, fair enough. So I mean, and applying this principle. So I mean, that is often the way, right? It's about networking. It's about finding these people who do these kinds of deals frequently.
Absolutely.
And then like you said, it's about ultimately finding the property, right? So one of the ways that I've seen historically of finding cash buyers, just for the audience as a method, is that you can actually you can put out you can put out information on Craigslist about that you have properties that are off market, that you're looking for cash buyers on, and that you ultimately attract these kinds of people as well. Networking, just like you mentioned, is a great way. So connecting with people like yourself, John, as a way to find those find those investors, find those cash buyers who are looking for deals, and then being able to put something in front of them. These are all great ways to sort of find these investor sort of clients, right?
Absolutely. Building relationships, all around.
Awesome. And then you said the final piece of the puzzle. So essentially the deal structure that we're putting together here is we have a buyer who's going to have a hard time going the traditional route. We have our investor who is going to be the source of funding in order to get that buyer a property that they can afford. They're just not the traditional sort of way of looking at it on paper, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh, and then ultimately we have to find the property for the buyer themselves. So let's talk about that. How do we find the right sort of properties that's going to be a good fit for the buyer and a good fit for the investor?
So, and that's what a lot of people might doubt in some cases, like, oh, this person's not approved, they're not approved. But when you really look at the deepness of the reality of let's say, consider yourself a lender, and would you rather loan someone on a $100,000 house because they had good credit with $3,000 down, or somebody that might have had some medium or whatever credit but with $30,000 down? I mean, the person with good credit could lose their job, could end up not paying you, easier that, and then plus they'd be like almost underwater if they bought at retail. This person with the 30% down range is, they can sell their house in most cases if it really shit hits the fan, let's say.
Right.
Pardon the French. Yeah.
Right. I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was part of your question, but your main question, what was the last part to your question?
Yeah. So the main question is how do you find the properties? How do you find the properties that are a good fit? What does that look like?
Well, here's the thing with, and this opens up a lot of doors for realtors. A lot of times they're dealing with the land contract buyers, these ones that we're talking about. A lot of them are already dealing with them, but they're only looking for properties that are on the realtor market or whether it's a for sale, let's just say on the realtor market that the owner is offering seller financing.
Right.
So it really limits that buyer on what they're able to find. There's like a few in each town, and basically, so there's not. I mean, there's a bunch in Detroit, but overall, they're not a dime a dozen. So once you let that land contract buyer know, they can look at any house they want that's for sale on the realtor market, on Zillow, or wherever. Just make sure to let you know, and you'll put the numbers together, negotiate the deal, have your investor buy it, and sell it to them. They would already have seen it and agreed as well. So it would all be in place for not a simultaneous close, but a back-to-back closing.
Gotcha.
Pretty much like a simultaneous close. In some cases, you can get paid on both closings as well, because you're getting paid. You're getting paid through the seller when whoever's selling the house as a buyer's agent, and depending on what you work out with your investor, who's selling it to that buyer, there could be another commission involved as well.
Gotcha. So in terms of finding the house, essentially what you're saying is the house itself is pretty much any house on the market, right? So
as long as they have about 20 to 30% down, that's the most crucial factor over anything, and showing some ability to pay from a standpoint of showing you have a decent job or some type of flow of income. In some cases, certain investors don't even look at that. They just care about the down payment and they feel their money's safe. But, in some cases, you got to show a little more strength as well. Some investors want to see an exit plan where you're going to be out in a couple of years. You're going to get a mortgage. It takes 2 years after a Chapter 7 bankruptcy to get an FHA. You're 1 year in, so in a year or so, you're going to get a mortgage.
I gotcha. So they're looking for what's their next step where they get their money back out. And so on the investor end, what are they looking at in terms of returns on these kinds of deals?
Well, an investor, let's say for example on the 100,000, if they're buying the house for 100,000, they're going to sell it back to that next buyer at 115, let's say on average. So that's a $15,000 markup. They're selling it for $15,000 higher than they bought it. 30,000 down. You got $85,000 loan, and usually you're paying 8-9%. The maximum's 11 right now in Michigan. But this is how these guys make their money, off interest monthly, and then also selling it to you for higher than what they paid. But I've seen a lot of people are like, that's crazy, 15,000 higher. That's insane. I'm not dealing with that crook. That guy's an asshole. You know what I mean? So, but the reality is you're using that person's cash as leverage to get you the best deal possible. I've had plenty of deals, examples just like that 2.5 years later, these people sold their houses for 160, 170,000 and made 40 or 50,000. And, they're loving the guy for life. So it's just kind of like a way of thinking and experience and knowing other people that it's worked out for, so.
Well, and just like you said, I mean, the other reality of it is, the investor's option is always to not put money in too, right? So like the reality is that the deal happens because the investor is willing to take a risk as well, right? They're willing to put the money into it, and there's nothing to say that they shouldn't be rewarded for that, right? Like they should make money.
Absolutely. That's We also we all got to start somewhere. They could have been flipping houses at the beginning and
Right.
or whatever it took. So it's money works for you. We all know that. That's the rich man's way.
Exactly. And essentially they're making their money. They're making a fee as a result of fronting the money so that, to help somebody who can't do the traditional route. Because that's the reality. If they could do the traditional route, they'd do the traditional route and save the money, right? Like that's how they go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes tons of sense. So for the investors, so just to make sure that I'm clear on this part, you mentioned one of the biggest things that they care about is going to be the 20 to 30 down. Outside of that, are there types of properties or anything that you found, or kind of on an investor by investor basis?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and there's a real simple answer. The answer is investors prefer properties that are more beat up. They don't want a property to be all granite kitchen with top of line cabinets and bathroom, because if they get that house back and all that stuff's messed up, then their investment money is not as safe. So in most cases, they like fixer-uppers, houses with older kitchens, older bathrooms, stuff that's not being bought at top dollar retail. So in reality, when they're loaning 70 to 80% of the value, or basically that they're really at, if the person actually does go in and upgrade it and do the kitchen and bathroom, then their money's even safer. And then that person, not only is their money safer because the house is worth more, that person has sweat equity in it, more money in it. So it's just a safer bet all around.
Yeah, so part of what they're looking at is what is the upward potential, right? If it's already at the top end, if it's already top of the line, then there's not really much further that it could go. But if it's in a good area, good neighborhood, and as is at the lower end of the quality, you can increase the quality and get a return on that.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, if you really want to just break it down to like updated kitchens, updated bathrooms, newer roofs, furnaces, windows. These are like the 5 or 6 components that are like the main things that, and especially the kitchen and bathroom. If you have an older kitchen and bathroom, those are things that, that can be upgraded pretty easily. But the other things are important too. So you just gotta kind of monitor that, because if you really get into a house where the windows are new, the roof's new, everything's new,
right,
then the investor might say, you know what, I might need 40% down on this one. Because if this person trashes this house and leaves me with, that, I mean, it might be, so sometimes it's a case-by-case situation, but there's some good lenders out there that won't nitpick that either. But I've seen some of that along the way.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. So I think in terms of the strategy itself, we've sort of walked through the process, so we know how to find the people, right? So that's essentially most often it sounds like talking to your lenders in the area, your mortgage professionals, finding the people that aren't a good fit for them. Maybe even putting it out into your local real estate, in your office, just making it aware, sort of putting it out there that you can help people who are in these more difficult situations, and as a result, you're able to make deals happen that other people aren't, and you find those opportunities, right?
For sure, you're right on. And on top of that, just people that are in cash businesses that don't show a lot of taxes but make a lot. Landscaping companies, you know what I mean? Any type of cash business, from like little restaurants, Coney Islands, party stores, gas stations. Anything that there's a lot of cash flow, that you guys are, I mean, I'm not saying they're cheating on their taxes, but even real estate investors, some of them are, but that's also not your problem. But some of them are, but the point is some of them do take losses and know how to, show the losses and not pay as much taxes.
Right. They're working the system the way that essentially the system's designed to. They see, that you're supposed to be able to take the losses and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people don't know you can actually take a loss for depreciation of value on a home. So if the property went down from 100,000 to 70,000, that's a loss and stuff for real estate investors. So there's a lot of different ways. So you just have to have a good accountant for all that. But
right. But so in terms of finding these kinds of people where you can help them in this way, and this offer is going to be advantageous. We're looking for the deals that most agents probably aren't willing to put the work into for, right? Like, because you got to be creative. You got to be ready to problem solve. You got to find the ones that aren't easy in order to find these opportunities as well, right?
You definitely do. And then there's certain times they become easier deals than any other deals.
Right.
But when you haven't done something, it's always hard.
Right. Right.
So, anything worth doing is definitely going to take some work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So generating these kinds of buyers is making those connections, getting your name out there, making it clear that you help the people in this specific situation where they could buy a home financially, but on paper they don't look like the right kind of buyer for traditional financing. So that's kind of how we find those people, right? And then the next step is that we're looking for the investors, for the people who are able and willing to put up the kind of money in these situations, comfortable with these kinds of deals. That's largely networking. That's talking to people like yourself. That's talking to that's potentially putting out information on Craigslist or Facebook, talking about looking for cash properties, saying that you have properties that are available to buy this way in order to start generating those relationships, right?
Absolutely. And then in some cases, if those sellers are willing to negotiate, you'll just have the cash buyer buy it, and then they might fix it up, flip it, and you list it for them. So that's just another option that is right what we're talking about here.
Right. It's all about making all those pieces line up where everybody's interests are in aligned and what everybody wants out of the deal kind of happens, right?
You got it, Zach.
There you go. And so then, and in terms of finding the properties, some of the things that we talked about on that for the land contract buyer are let's call them a distressed buyer, which it's not the right term, but our creative buyer, let's call it that, right? So our creative buyer, they on their end, they can now essentially look at any property, right? Because you're kind of taking care of the hard work on the back end, right? From the investor standpoint, they might lean more toward properties that are going to have some upward potential, that need some work, that need some help, and they're banking on the buyer kind of putting that work into making that property better as well, which helps protect their investment.
Yeah, well, if their business mind, the actual creative buyer, as you called it, it works out better for them as well,
right?
Because they have something where they can build equity. Their money's safer as well, and they have some skin in the game. That's what the 20 to 30% is. So
exactly. And so then what's that?
If they have more in the game by work and sweat equity and hiring people and doing all that, then they're actually building equity, and they use the cash as leverage to get the best deal possible as well. Some people just want a house to make them happy, though. So
right.
But a lot of people out there do love the fact when you explain it to them and let them know. I mean, if you bought this brand new house, it's kind of like buying that brand new car. You pull off the lot, you lose 20, 30,000. You get that brand new house, or you get that house that has the new kitchen, the bathroom, the windows, the roof, the everything.
Right.
As soon as you pull off, you might have lost a little something. Maybe not as bad as a car, but you're not that guy down the street who bought it for 60,000 less, who only has to spend 20 to make it worth as much as yours and stuff. So
right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So yeah, so I think that the concept of kind of this working with buyers who are in need of more of a creative solution, being able to find those deals that other people are missing because they're looking for the easy sort of lay down buyers, the easy traditional transaction. By doing this, you're able to carve out an area of the market that honestly, the more that we kind of enter into shifting markets, the more that we enter into less traditional sort of space, the more often you need to be ready to do this kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no question about it. It's just once you get your first one or two under your belt, I mean, you really realize that. I mean. You can. It's something that you can actually. I can call an agent right now and say, "Hey, I see this property's listed at 100,000. my investor is willing to pay $90,000. Would your seller consider it? Okay, yeah, I'll call them. Or did you show it yet? And they call back and say, yeah, you're buying this house $90,000 cash as is. You before you even see it, you're doing some of the legwork. So you confirm that. Your other buyer, you take him over there, make sure they like it, and then you put it all together. So it's something that you can close as is, and you can close within days. A lot of these mortgage deals take 30 to 45 days, and that's why people fall out of the business and are back working at Sprint and stuff like that. So it's nothing wrong with Sprint, but I'm just saying, you got to be on the clock from 9 to 9 at a lot of these jobs, or 9 to 5. And, even though I'm working 7 days a week, I still managed to coach my son for 7 years since he was 6 to the age of 13, at every practice, every basketball game, and run around on my daughter's stuff and tennis, and be able to be there for all of that. And, for the most part, unless I really had to service a client and, I was busy, I wasn't able to, but for the most part, you can schedule, you have a lot of freedom compared to, what's out there and stuff once you get to a certain point.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a lot of work, but hey, if you're not able or willing to put in the work, like you said, there's always Sprint, there's always Uber, right? Like you can
exactly.
get a normal job, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So let's dive into one of the other topics that you were mentioning about working with loyal buyers. So what do you find in terms of the strategy of making sure that that you don't, you described the scenario of, you show 20 homes, and then they call you up and basically say, hey, I found a FSBO I'm going to go with, and essentially cut you out of the deal. So how do you deal with this situation where to either fix that? What's that process look like to make sure that your buyers are staying loyal?
Yeah, well, that exact scenario that I told you about earlier about the dude that I was working with, he was actually a broker, and he, showed this client 20 houses on the weekend who was his relative. And, we were talking about it later in the week, and he says, yeah, they went and found a for sale by owner. And I told him, that was your fault. You know what I mean? And I've made that same mistake. I said, first of all, if it's a close buyer, a relative or a friend, or someone you kind of like have a good referral from, you need to let them know right away, that anything they find, if they happen to find something else that's not part of the search that you set them up through a realtor site, to that you're working for them on their behalf, you're going to give you the number, you call them, make sure they're working with realtors. Most of them are, because that's what the for sale by owner and the Zillow buyers are. They, a lot of them say it right on there. We're working with buyers agents, 3% of buyers agents. So there was no need for that person to cut out the cousin and, go direct, because the cousin, the buyer's agent could have negotiated them a better deal, and either way he could have got paid, and and he put in the work. So most people that have some feelings towards you are going to say, yeah, man, I don't want you to work for free. I'm going to let you know. Plus, I want to make sure I'm protected. I want to go through someone professional. I want to go through a professional title company. I want to know what's going on with someone who's experienced. People close a few deals in their life and they feel like they mastered it because they got it done. But then, they run across deals that fall apart, which until you, worked in the field and had to, depend on a deal closing, and all of a sudden you can't feed your family, then you realize, there's no guarantee on any closing. There's so many different things that can come up to kill a closing, whether it's losing their job, whether it's the loan officer didn't review the tax returns fully. And you find these things out in the middle to the end of the process, which is stupid. But unfortunately, if you don't have an understanding of the mortgage end, these things happen. So the loyalty and the other aspect, is if they're not as close, sometimes they don't. You can get them to sign a buyer's agency agreement. Most realtors know about that. Maybe tie them down for 6 months to let them know that they're dealing with you, and also let them know, make sure they know anything that they see in the public eye or whatever, to contact you first, and take it from there. And if they see a for sale by owner sign driving down the road, to let you know you're working for them 24/7 on anything that's out there. And if they sign that buyer's agency, then they're also willing to pay you 3% commission, even if that seller isn't paying. But you can,
Right.
so that's another factor. But a lot of people don't want to, sign that and stuff. So I mean, it just depends.
Yeah, I think the key thing that you mentioned there is really being clear up front, having those conversations, making sure that people understand the agreement, the arrangement. But more specifically, like the only thing that people ever care about, right? What's the phrase that I've heard people listen to? It's like everybody's brain is tuned to one radio station, and it's WIIT FM or whatever, right? What's in it for me? and 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 the reality is, if you have the conversations from that standpoint of talking about, hey, here's my role in this, right? Like whether it's a traditional listing or whether it's a FSBO or whatever, I am there to make sure that you're protected. I am there to make sure that the deal stands the best chance, that you get a great deal, that you have somebody who's been through the jungle, that's cut down the weeds, and knows how to make sure that we're spotting the problems before they happen, right? So that you don't get to the finish line without the house that you want, because that's very, very much the kind of thing that can happen. You don't want to go through all this work, go through all the process of getting pre-approved, of having all the conversations, seeing the home, getting emotionally invested, and then have it fall apart on you. You want somebody there who's seen all the trouble and can see it before it happens, so that you know.
Absolutely, man. Honestly, you hit it so on the nose. It's unbelievable. You hit it perfect, man. I couldn't have said that better myself, man. That was awesome. But yeah, to give you a quick example, I had a $900,000 deal going in Bloomfield here just about 4 months ago, and
Right.
it was ready to close and in process, and the person had went through a divorce, and actually the husband owed the IRS like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and all of a sudden that came up on title. So that's near the end of the process and stuff. So a lot of times you can check that out earlier in the process. But either way, I converted the guy to a $750,000 house we were working on before and made it happen. But in many cases, the heartbreak can hit you hard as a buyer or as a realtor if you're not prepared for the things that can come up, just as you perfectly stated.
Yeah. And just like you mentioned, even in those cases where maybe something's unavoidable, like you can't know everything before it happens, but you got to ask yourself, who stands the better chance, the person who's living and breathing real estate day after day, or the person who's maybe done a deal or two, right? Like the reality is the way that the real estate agent's mind is going to be tuned toward what those problems could be, being ready for them, being proactive about fishing them out. You're going to be better positioned. But even in those cases where you aren't, where something's unavoidable, you still are better positioned to be able to switch gears and get them into something that works, even in the case of that one falling through. And the average person, the emotional trauma that could happen of getting your heart set on a deal, is that the point where you want to then start by yourself going and looking for another home or whatever, right? Like, no, you want somebody in your corner who's still going to help you make it happen, still be out there looking with you, for you, helping to make sure that those things happen.
Yeah, and then just the respect and the appreciation for the origination of real estate. We're not salesmen. We're here as to be by your side, to be like to really be there for someone, from all aspects of the financial standpoint, the good deal, to whatever that person's most interested in. If they want to buy a top dollar retail property that's decked out to the max and it's 50,000 higher than anything that's ever sold in the sub, it's not a problem. I mean, it's not all about money for people. So it's something that someone's planning on living in for, in some cases, 10, 20, 30 years. So they can care less about that. They just know they're going to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think the key, just like you mentioned, it's having those conversations on the front end, right? Like the paperwork.
Sure.
The paperwork matters for sake of having that document to point back to, so that people know what the expectations are. But I think more often than anything, like, you need the buy-in in their heart, you need the buy-in in their mind of why they're working with you and what that looks like, just so that the understanding's there. right? And having those conversations, giving them the examples, and essentially, being the professional who's there to say, hey, here's the problem that you don't even see yet, by you thinking you might want to go, like, go the FSBO route and not work with me, right? Here's the problem that you don't understand you're going to run into, so that you get that buy-in, you get that trust, you breed that loyalty, by making sure it's there before you even deal with the situation.
You hit it on the nose again. Yeah, so that's what it's about. Preparation,
Absolutely.
application, execution, man.
Awesome. So cool, man. So at this point, we've covered some really great topics. We've covered how to work with what we call creative buyers, the people who have the money, they can do the transaction, but they're not really qualified for the traditional route. About how to find those people, how to find the investors who can secure the properties to bring those together. What kind of properties work for that. We talked about how to find buyers and keep them loyal. One of the things that I like to do at this point is to dive into just some sort of rapid fire questions. We can expound on them. We can go through them quickly. You just give a couple of thoughts, but they're just some things that give an easy way for people to have some other ideas to think about from this episode. Sound good?
Sounds great. Ready.
Awesome. So what are some of your favorite tools? Now, for example, this could be software, it could be technology, it could be anything that you feel like helps you get the job done. I've had people in the past give me an example of just like even a notebook. What are some of the tools that help you get your job done?
Yeah, some of the main tools that's going to be a benefit to realtors, which I didn't know the first 3 years in real estate when I was
Right.
thrown to the wolves and had to work the 7 days a week, and I still do, but the different fashion, but a little bit more stability, which a lot of people don't have in the real estate business. But the big thing is knowing how to generate business, knowing how to generate listings. If you don't have a super powerful sphere of influence, a lot of people do have huge networks already, so it's kind of easier for them to build listings and stuff. But for sale by owners and expired listings are two of the top ways to create listings. And if you have the investors at the same time, in some of those cases you might just come in and buy those houses. Whether you're buying it for yourself, buying it for the investor, or possibly that land contract buyer. So you're speaking to that for sale by owner and that expired seller in their language where, this is a possible sale here. A lot of them are like, are you serious? Are you just saying that? And I'm like, no, I'm extremely serious. I have a serious track record of actually taking these for sale by owners and expireds and, converting them to listings and sales, and in some cases selling them for more than what they had them on Zillow for months. I have official examples of that. One of them is 29732 Newberry in Farmington Hills. She had it listed for $369 on Zillow. I listed it for $379, got a buyer for $375 within the first week. She was trying for months and actually years, months that spring, which was 2 springs ago. And, it ended up appraising at $370. We ended up compromising at $372.5. So,
right.
What's strange is, a lot of people are doing the flat fee listings and independent brokers. And I tried that for only 6 months out of my real estate career. And it was actually the worst experience of all time and stuff.
Right.
It just, your listings don't get the action. You don't get the respect. And, you're not really opening up as many doors as possible for that actual seller. It's not as simple as just slap it on the MLS. There's Remax.com, I'm spending literally, $20,000 a year just to work for them, and just between the office and the corporate office. So, I balanced out what the difference is, and I decided it's way better, in my opinion, to go with a brand name realtor office, or if you're not able to offer that type of quality, you got an international brand, you got worldwide buyers, you got corporate transferees, you got so many different doors on top of what we already talked about that certain brands can offer you. So
absolutely. So when you're tracking down FSBOs and expireds, what are some of the tools that you do that with? You just pop into Craigslist, look for the FSBOs? Do you go on Zillow? What are you looking for? What are you
It's
using to do?
there's different lead sources you know out there that you can purchase that you know to start the old school ways. When you see a sign, you know, get the phone number and call it. You know,
Right.
that's you know, that's still one of the ways. And then there's just different lead sources. There's RedX and Land Voice are two of the top lead sources out there for sale by owners and expireds.
Cool. And do you use both of those?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And
Cool.
then if you want to
Awesome.
use a dialer system as well, that can help. You know, if you're ready to have some marketers or if you can do it yourself. A lot of realtors can't handle the marketing aspect. I actually do marketing as well for about 15 realtors and
Right.
distribute leads at a 35% referral rate. So I'm also open to do that for anyone who's in you know, Oakland, Wayne, Macomb counties, and you know, potentially Washington, Lapeer, Genesee. So
Gotcha.
I like to get a list of agents who have buyers and who also are interested in referrals, who don't want to do that legwork and are willing to pay referral fees. And you know, so ultimately that's part of my business at this moment as well. So
Cool. What you mentioned a dialer. What kind of dialer do you use? What technology?
Mojo dialer. RedX also has their own dialer.
Right.
So but those are the only two that I've used.
Cool. Awesome. So my next question, who has most influenced you? Who are some mentors or thought leaders, people that have inspired kind of where you are today and help you become the agent that you are today?
Well, as I was telling you earlier, after the first 3 years of being thrown to the wolves and just dealing with family and dealing with friends and talking to people and dropping your card off here and there,
Right.
you know, I worked for a guy who, you know, his name's Michael Perna.
Okay.
He was probably at about 300K a year gross at that time in 2012. So he taught me how to generate business and stuff overall with the for sale by owners and expires, and kind of more so turning it into a business than a part-time housewife type job.
Gotcha.
You know,
Gotcha.
and no you know, disrespect to the part-time housewives. A lot of them make millions, you know, hundreds of thousands a year by
Right.
selling 2 houses a year because they, you know, live in a good area and, you know, have a good sphere of influence to make these things happen. But not all of us have that simple, easy route. So we got to build up and you know, fight, crawl, scratch, kick, and do everything possible to close deals. And what the thing I was mentioning earlier, where I found the joy in the business is making the clients happy. You know, showing that you're really advocating for them, and you know, and then them really feeling that in their heart, you know, for the rest of their lives. It's a pretty amazing feeling on that aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Pretty, you know.
Now, the next question: what books do you recommend, or maybe just sources of information that you've read in the past few years that you think would be good for other people to check out?
Yeah, I like Think and Grow Rich is a pretty good base for people. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. You know, I like Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Power of Positive Living and Power of Positive Thinking are a couple good books, and
Awesome.
those two have helped me a lot. And you know, listening to some like Les Brown and certain guys, Tony Robbins, and, you know, guys are pretty good. You know, a lot of that stuff's free on YouTube. I know they say come in and, you know, take it to the next level. Of course, spend the $2,000-3,000 to come to one of the seminars, and I'm sure it works. But you can get a lot, you know, just by listening online and stuff. And you know, as long as you listen enough.
Awesome. Yeah, good call. So so to wrap it up. So the thing that I always like to end with in terms of the content is, you know, if say people walk away from this, what are the top 3 things that you want them to remember? What are the things that are going to help their business or help them that you hope as a result of listening to this episode that they're going to walk away with?
Well, number one that we were talking about in the first topic is having investors that are ready to cash houses out. In some cases, you can turn those into immediate sales, whether it's for that investor to flip, whether you are possibly investing yourself. You know, if you're getting full, in some cases we can get 100% funding on these deals, you know, which is unheard of, and money for rehab. And you know, I'm open to taking you know, take on partners from that. But that is the investors, getting the land contract buyers that need the private financing. So that's one. Number two is, pounding away at building a listing portfolio through for sale by owners, expireds, and then also cold calling, which we didn't touch on, but cold calling is the same thing as, calling any random person, and if I can get you the right price for your house, would you sell it? You might get a giggle and say, yeah, of course, at the right price, or you might get hung up on, of course, but and also when you meet people wherever you are, the grocery store, the doctor office, are you interested in buying or selling any real estate? So the combination of generating enough business, and once you have 5 or 10 pending deals at the same time, you got a business flow. That way, if 1 or 2 fall apart, they're still flowing and you're still building. So kind of turn it more into a business. Those are the top 2. As for a third, just investing maybe yourself in some cases, which I did touch on there, but it's another aspect of real estate, not being a realtor, but it still does intertwine with your business. So, if you have the funding and, someone wants to sell their house for 60 or 70,000 and they don't want to fix it up and they don't want to deal with the process, and you're willing to go in there and spend the 10,000, or you have the funding for it to make it a $100,000 and $110,000 house, then, you're opening up another door for yourself to and get ahead as an investor as well as a realtor.
Absolutely. And being there, being able to see the options, being right at the forefront of everything that's going on, it puts you in a good position to invest yourself when you see those opportunities.
Exactly, Zach. Got it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So to wrap it up, where can people connect with you? Who are the people that should connect with you? And what are the ways that you want somebody listening to this? What should they do to reach out and connect with you?
Well, overall, if they're realtors, they can just connect with me on LinkedIn. To John Pickell, Pickell, also known as Pickle. But so. You just connect there, and then if they're actual buyers or sellers, you can always go to johnpickellhomes.com, or just give me a shout, whichever way possible. So
awesome. And who are the types of people that you think most should reach out to you? Agents that are looking to connect on the investing stuff. Who are the most beneficial, both for them and also for yourself, people to connect with?
Yeah, and then I would say agents who come across a lot of good deals and who are looking to buy them and maybe partner up on the investing end, and also anyone that just needs a little bit of coaching and some direction on things we talked about today in a little bit more detail. So I'm open to that as well.
Awesome. Sounds good. So thank you again for coming on, John. Really appreciate it. Love the topics, the creative ways of working with buyers. Love the thinking through of how you can make sure that the buyers stay loyal to you. And yeah, thanks again for coming on.
I appreciate it, Zach. It's been a pleasure. Have a great rest of your day, man.
Awesome. You as well.
Rock on.
You as well.
See ya.
See ya. And for anybody else that's still watching, again, if you are in a market where you're looking at ways where you can connect with your market, but you struggle for finding ways to stay top of mind and stay front and center, I really encourage you, if you're looking for a strategy that might interest you, check out localcelebrityshow.com. We're up to some really cool things there. We're featuring local businesses. It's a really great way to benefit your community while benefiting yourself at the same point, generating that interest, generating that know, like, trust, generating that top of mind awareness. What we're doing is we're helping you to make that happen. We're helping you produce a show. We're making that easy so that all you have to do is essentially show up on your computer, just like me and John here are talking, have some great conversations with some cool business owners, and use that as a way to connect with your community to generate real estate deals, real estate business in a way that just everybody, including yourself, really enjoys. So if you want to check that out, again, you can go to localcelebrityshow.com. Check that out. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you like this content, give John a shout out on Facebook. Give him a shout out on our podcast. Leave us a review. Let us know that you loved the content. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Growth Hacker Show. Remember, done is better than perfect. To turn the marketing ideas and tactics you just learned into real growth for your real estate business, visit us at realestategrowthhackers.com. If you like this episode, consider sharing it with another real estate professional who could benefit from the information. Or maybe you'd like to subscribe to the show to never miss an episode. And you can leave a rating or review on iTunes with your biggest takeaway, helping this show to reach and help more people just like you. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.